Welcome
Hello.
to the Shambles Stay at Home Festival. We should say, warning, it is possibly PG with PG content like Fighting With My Family. Yeah, we got that out of the way, haven't we, Josie?
I promise you, I'm not going to say a mild to moderate swear word today. It's only taken me 4 or 5 goes, but I'm ready to rise to the challenge.
Some would say 4 or 5 goes. Some would say 36 years. Still, one of my favourite things is watching you really. I can't obviously tell the story, but I remember one time when we were doing a book club, and the front row we had this lovely thing. We had a grandmother, a mother, and a 10-year-old boy, and they were all together. They were having such. It was during the Edinburgh Fringe, and I said, Josie, just in case, and you went no, and you did the whole 10 minutes. I'd never seen it. It was like this a long time ago. There was every little time you nearly got to a swear, you swerved round with something of beauty, and then right at the end, the full big swear came, and you went, oh. But it was a beautiful moment of like, I've made it, and now my brain has allowed me to go free, and oh, the bad swear came. But they enjoyed it.
You see, that was. I knew on some level that I was just preparing them for it. How are you today, Robin?
I'm very good. I last night I watched a fantastic film which I think you've seen already, which I highly recommend to anyone. It's on Netflix. It is Maeve Higgins, Claudia Doherty in Extraordinary, which is a great Irish film. Very, very. It's kind of funny and wonderfully weird at times, and it has an element of a satanic Chris de Burgh in it as well. So that I think will be pleasing for some people.
Yep, I loved it. Very much so. I think that also it's just such a thrill to see Maeve in it being so effortless and hilarious, and Claudia too is very exciting.
She's so funny. She has such great delivery, both of them brilliant. Anyway, we are joined today. We should tell you who's on. Shortly, we're going to have Sara Pascoe. We also have Ben Norris, the comedian Ben Norris, who has just done a new album of songs. In fact, his first ever album of songs, as far as I know. And we have with us now Natalie Haynes.
Hello.
Natalie Haynes.
Hey.
We have loads of questions about the classics for you today, by the way.
All right.
So,
I'll try and know the answer. I've got a Greek dictionary right there. I can just reach over.
This is an open book interview.
Should we start and tell? Natalie, if people who are regularly watching will know, we do a show and tell. So people just show objects that they have around the house, because most people are digging through all manner of detritus at the moment, thinking perhaps this is the time I can somehow create some element of order in my life. So what have you found, Natalie?
I am not digging around because I hilariously still have a book deadline, because I was so far behind it that even though everyone has stopped, I'm still behind. So well done me. So what you've got is something which is on my desk, which I have to reach for quite carefully. I don't generally do things as carefully. Robin, you've seen this before. You have been in my flat. Shocking news from behind the scenes. Robin's been in my flat. But I own, thanks to a gift from my very lovely ex-boyfriend, Dan Mersch, I own this, which is a little tiny, can you see this? Terracotta head of Medusa, or at least of a Gorgon. And a Gorgon head is from the 2nd or 3rd century. A Gorgon head is known as a Gorgoneon when it's on its own. And you can just about see, although she's a bit battered by age, but then which of us isn't, Robin? You can just about see she has slightly snakish hair. But Gorgonea were not scary. The idea of them being the evil thing that will turn you into stone is something I'll be questioning in my next book. I have done that chapter, so well done me. But Gorgonea were originally apotropaic, so they're protective. And so we have Gorgon heads like this on temples, and people used to wear them on shields and things like that. Agamemnon has one on his shield, I think, in the Iliad. And they protected us. So they are supposed to protect us from, I guess, probably things that are outside, so snakes, obviously, hence the snakish hair. But also, if you look at a Gorgoneon, I'll hold it up again, you can see there's a sort of element of like a lion's mane to the structure of the way her head works with the snakes around it. So they're meant to protect us from the dark, from wild animals and from things like that. And I thought, if not now, then when do we all need a not very rational apotropaic symbol to keep us safe? So you're all embraced under the not turning you into stone gaze of my beautiful Gorgon head.
That's brilliant. Wonderful.
High caliber show and tell, Robin. This is like an actual museum. That's not even my only ancient object. If I come back in a couple of weeks, you're getting my Persephone coin from Damien Barr. Yes, you are.
Right, Josie, the bar has been set very, very high now. What's your to be?
Absolutely not the slightest bit worried to show my object, which is a traditional talismanic symbol. Here it is. As you'll be able to see, there's a script on it, and it says After School Club Most Improved Player. And this
most improved, Josie. Come on, that's the thing you had control over. Come on.
Oh, basically, there was an after-school club done by Crystal Palace football team at my school in 1993 to 4 that year, 3 to 4, and I went every week, and I was so bad that I got the nickname Goal Machine, but ironically. And at the end of the year, they gave me this, and I was so genuinely affected and moved by getting it. I couldn't believe it. And then it only took me like 3 or 4 years to realise that everyone got a trophy, and that this is basically the only one that doesn't admit to any skill. But I've kept it, so I've kept it for 24 years, and I've never
a trophy, babe.
Trophy, yeah, right. It counts.
I'll show you Michael Legg gave me tomorrow. I'll get that as my show and tell. But I think it's a lovely thing because I certainly found that as someone who did not in any way excel in sport, very much kind of hyper-vigilant individual. So I was always too aware of my body, like throwing a ball, you're entirely aware. And you eventually feel that you can't do any of those things. But then when I started doing like training, when I was on the tour with Brian Cox, and we have lovely person, Steph, by the way, I don't think Steph will probably be watching, but if you are, hello, Steph. Finding out that if it's non-competitive, I can do exercise. All of that. I think some people carry with them so much shame over their inability to do sport at school because of the worry, because of the nerves, because of feeling like an outsider, lots of different kind of reasons. And then they don't in any way realise that in fact there's lots of things you can do. I actually, love exercising now. And I just want to say that anyway, because I think that is kind of important thing.
Also, that's such a beautiful thing to discover at any point in your life, and it's so nice that you can discover it. You could discover it when you were 65. You could discover it when you were older than 65. It's like always there for you, just waiting, and you can participate in your own way. Beautiful.
Because Natalie, you start running. You do a lot of running now, don't you?
I do. Yeah.
Oh, we all do a lot of running now.
I was in my 30s, and I'd always been quite a keen swimmer. I was quite good at swimming at school. And I'm not particularly, I'm not at all coordinated. I'm quite clumsy. I'm really clumsy. But I was always quite good. I'm better in water because I've got massive feet like flippers. And so I'd always thought that would sort of slow me down as a runner, literally and metaphorically. And actually it doesn't at all. It's fine. It means you're less likely to, once you've kind of not tripped over them, it's sort of okay. But my coordination is still terrible. So I took up kickboxing a bit over a year ago. So that's really helped me a lot. I very much recommend it because then it's still, I mean, there are the guys there and some of the women there are really competitive with themselves, but nobody is particularly, I realize I'm by far the worst person there. So no one has to compete with me except like the furniture, but everyone is just really like, come on, you can do this. I'm consistently the most improved by virtue of having started basically, prone. And so I always just really love going. I'm missing them terribly. I'm missing my kickboxing gang terribly at the moment. Yeah.
We have a trophy shop just around from where I live. I will be going there as soon as they are open again. You will be getting a most improved. Just so you know, I'm going to make sure. My show and tell is it might still be happening. It might not. I was meant to be doing the Linda Smith lecture this year down at Canterbury. Oliver Double, who's a wonderful lecturer and comedian down there. And so I was meant to be doing that. It looks like it's probably going to be postponed. And so I just got an email this morning about that. And something that I was going to do there, I apologise for this. I don't really write poetry. They're just sentences that are kind of broken into different shapes. But when Neil Ince died, I was thinking about this with Linda, of course, who was such a great comedian and such a lovely human being. And in January, Neil Ince died, who was similar, or December actually, end of December. Really lovely human being. Terry Jones, not long afterwards. And I have to say, Josie, your shortcuts this week on Radio 4 is an absolute delight. You have a beautiful piece of Terry Jones on that. It's
great, isn't it? I really recommend it to everyone. It is very loving and great to listen to. I really loved getting to make it, and I cried so much just listening to the audio of it.
It's Terry Jones reading some Dylan Thomas, and in the early times when he was just beginning to realise in 2014 that something might not be right. But I was thinking about Linda, and I was thinking about Terry Jones and Neil Ince. We were lucky enough, both Josie and I, to meet Terry Jones as well when we made a book Shambles an old Shambles a long time ago, and I worked with Neil. And I just wrote a thing about the fact that sometimes when you meet people, the older you get, the less fear that I have of actually just going up to them and saying, "I love your work, and this is great, and thank you very much." So I just kind of wrote this thing, which I'll probably work on a bit when we eventually do the Linda Smith lecture. But this is about that kind of situation. Let me celebrate you now as you stand before me while you can still hear the cheer. Don't let me wait until you're gone to be fond. Don't let fear of embarrassment stifle my delight. How worry of impending shame leads us to talk about love only when there can be no response. Derision is easily dispensed, brickbat easier to receive, an acknowledgement of what our self-loathing knew already. We fumble and blush when praised or when praising, waiting to be caught out and rejected. I loved her book. I loved his art. I loved their mind. Past tense. It's hard not to fear the present, hard to be present, hard not to bend under a cynic stare. Keep the volume of things unsaid as thin as it can be. Let it take little space on the shelf in your head. No need to be ashamed of joy, the giving or receiving of it. Avoid the uselessness of regret. Worry you have been overwhelming with your adoration rather than fear you have crushed with the negative. And I said all of that in my head as I saw you at the bar. Anyway, so that was just a little thing that when I after Neil and Terry Jones died. So that was my show and tell.
That's great.
Natalie, we're going to go to Sarah in a minute, and Ben first of all. But I'm just going to find we have loads of questions. The first question somewhere in you've got some of the questions as well, haven't you? I think Josie.
I've got them up here. I've been. Yeah, enjoying reading them. Also, a lot of them are people like Helen Oswick-Zaltzman. Hi, Helen. I hope you're well.
Lovely, Helen. Hey, Helen.
She sent a question saying, "Do you ever regret getting Andy Zaltzman into stand-up twice?" Which
I don't regret at all. I take I take zero responsibility for Andy. Sorry, Helen. Yeah, 150 years ago, approximately. I was still a student, so it would have been about my, I don't know, second or third ever gig. I don't think I'd even gigged with you yet, Robin. And I went to do a gig at Oxford because a friend of mine was running an event there. We'd been at school together. And the sort of big comedian that they had booked, who will remain nameless for this anecdote, didn't turn up. And so I was, I'd got like 5 minutes or something from doing Footlights. And I was like, well, I could do all the 5 minutes as I've ever done, because you only used to do them once together. Hope for the best. And then this, completely brilliant, crazy looking man who was just so dry and so witty, but just completely drunk because he was very nervous, who turned out to be Andy Zaltzman, went on and was just incredible. And so he only did it because there was no alternative, because this other comic hadn't showed up. And he found it, as of course we all know it is, that first gig can be intoxicating, and it was. They were such a home crowd because they were really rooting for us to be good because they didn't want to be disappointed, and it was an incredible night. And then I can't remember how long there was between that, both of us, me and Andy, both doing comedy as students, and then deciding that we'd make it, sort of on the circuit for real, or at least give it a try. But there was at some point, I think, maybe Edinburgh. I mean, it's usually Edinburgh, isn't it, that breaks your spirit into 1,000 tiny pieces and leaves you weeping on the ground. I should say that's mainly me. Andy was obviously much more mature about it and probably made some wry remark about cricket. But he stayed in my flat for the whole of that festival, because I think he sort of realised that you could get a lot of gigs in Edinburgh, but it was really hard to do anything anywhere else. There's so much travel, it was so expensive and so soul destroying. And so he came, and I think by the end of it, he'd sort of decided that he wasn't going to give up on the idea of being a stand-up, but would do it after all. So yeah, I claim slight responsibility for encouraging Andy Zaltzman, but I haven't seen him for 100 years. So hi, Andy. Helen, tell your brother hi. And also hi, Helen.
I love that. When I first read that question, I was like, that's very rude. And then I went, oh, yeah, it's from his sister. Okay, I see. Sibling rivalry. There's another, this is from Willow, who wants to know, what do you think the various ancient Greek and Roman people featured in Stand Up for the Classics would have been like on social media?
Oh God, Juvenile would have been amazing if he'd been prepared to do it, but he might have gone the Stuart Lee route and just refused by virtue of being simply too cool for school. Ovid would have been pleasingly epigrammatic. Horace would have been really good. I think Euripides, he's just above it, so not a chance. Or below it, maybe. I think above it. Who else have we done? Aspasia. Oh my God, Aspasia would be like the great Salonista of her time. So yeah, no, she would be incredible. Agrippina would be too busy plotting your murder, so she's got stuff on. Yeah, I think we've got a good variety. We've done 20 shows, so yeah, there should be a good range, I suppose, by now.
Right, we've got loads more questions, and there's one about the graffiti scene in Life of Brian, so just to warn you about that. But we're about to go over to Ben Norris, and first I'm just going to say, by the way, we have a tip jar at the bottom of this site, and we're trying to build up money for some of the people who are going to really be up against it. A lot of the kind of self-employed people who pretty much all the work, whatever happens, all work has for most performers has been cancelled for the next 3 months. It's all gone, whatever goes on.
Yeah, the industry is shut down. And also what we're hoping to do is to give some money to smaller venues. There are lots of venues around the country that exist almost by sheer effort of will. And the fact that everything has sort of been put on pause and that things are so uncertain now will really affect them. So we're hoping just to raise money for lots of different parts of our industry at the same time.
So places like the Rondo and... Sorry.
The Rondo in Bath, which is the tiniest, most perfect theatre in the world, and also really the amount of tickets that most people can sell in Bath.
It's great.
Sorry, I just waved to the camera.
You wave to whoever you want. This is your show, Josie, and you are allowed to wave. So we're going to go over to... Sorry.
Yeah, well, no, I was just going to do the same thing, but I don't know why you do it.
No, you do it.
We're going to go over to... This is me being a real kind of morning TV presenter. Now we're going to go over to Ben Norris, who is going to play us a little bit of music from his house. So let's see how that goes. What do you think?
Great, brilliant. Hey, Ben, how are you?
Hello, Robin. I'm good. I don't normally do anything at this time of day, except drink tea and stare out the window. But I'm going to try and attempt to play a couple of songs from my new album.
And it's your first album as well. I mean, you were really into music. I mean, I first met you, I think, in Aldershot, probably at the West End Arts Centre, somewhere like that. You ran a gig at the West End Arts Centre.
Backdoor Comedy Club, about 1992-ish.
Yeah.
Yes. That was my sort of gateway into stand-up. I used to compare a monthly Sunday night gig there and book people that I'd seen that I liked up in places like the Cartoon at Clapham, which is possibly the sort of place I might have met you first. I can't remember. But yes, and I used to be in bands, of course, back in those days, and gave it all up to become a stand-up. And then bit by bit, the music has kind of dripped back into my consciousness. And about 3 years ago, I bought a little guitar, not unlike this one, but cheaper, and started writing these silly little comedy songs, and they've developed into a bit of my act, and I've recorded this album with my cousin Jamie Freeman, who is an excellent musician himself and producer, and he's made a really great product.
Well, Ben, more silly little comedy songs then.
Okay, this song's called Jack. This song's called Jack White. It's about the time that Jack White from the White Stripes came to my house. Jack White's in my kitchen and he wants to play guitar. I said to Jack White, you better stay right where you are. If Jack White picks up my guitar, he'll make me look a dick. He's so good on six strings, everybody else looks rubbish. Jack White, Jack White, Jack White, Jack White, don't play my guitar. I do not want my guests to hear Jack White play my guitar. I tell him I'm afraid my axe is locked inside my car. He says no problem, grabs my key, says meet me out the front. Jack White seems determined now to make me look a bad guitarist. Jack White. he's still got no guitar. I am forced to admit that I do not own a car. Jack White's bounding up my stairs, he will not be put off. He's looking, sorry, my pedals just slipped across the floor. He's looking in my bedroom and he's looking in my loft, and I said, Jack White, Jack White, Jack White, Jack White, don't play my guitar. I said, Jack White, Jack White, Jack White, Jack White, don't play my guitar. Jack White comes back down the stairs, he's holding my guitar. All my friends are cheering because Jack White is a star. That is when Jack White suggests that I play the thing first. Things are pretty awful now, but soon they will get worse. I tell you, Jack White, Jack White, Jack White, Jack White, don't make me play guitar. I said, Jack White, Jack White, Jack White, don't go and make me play guitar. Sweat is dripping off my brow and bouncing off the frets. I'm so nervous that I think I might have filled my keks. Jack White with an evil smile is staring right at me. My arthritic fingers holding down the chord of C. Jack White, Jack White, Jack White, don't go and make me play guitar. I said, Jack White, Jack White, Jack White, Jack White, don't make me play guitar. My heart's pounding, mouth is dry, I don't know what to do. I decide to play My Generation by The Who. I made it to the end and my last chord rang out so clean. I took my Taylor Mini and smashed it to smithereens, and I said, Jack White, Jack White, Jack White, now you'll never play my guitar. Ha! Ha 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 ha! I said, Jack White, Jack White, Jack White, now you'll never play my guitar.
Thank you very much, Ben. Ben's going to be back with a song at the end of the show as well. And now we are going to be joined in a moment by Sara Pascoe, who's just coming into. Hello, Sara.
Hello.
Oh, we can't quite hear you yet.
Oh. I think you're still muted.
These are the moments that make it real.
Hey!
Hello, Sara.
Hello.
I love the room you're broadcasting from. There's so much going on there, and that is such a beautiful painting behind you. I love that.
Yeah, my uncle did it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And how are you in this time?
I've been ill, like everyone, and I've just, been sad in the house, really. This feels really exciting.
There's so many of us.
Yeah.
Did you feel kind of wiped out, but by then you felt wiped out for a few days?
Well, actually, for ages, I've been in complete denial about what I had, because I'd just come back from Finland, and I thought, oh, it's just, because it was like -15, and then coming back here, and then yesterday I lost my taste and smell, and I thought, oh no, I'm having a very mild version. But obviously the fun thing is not even knowing. So you just have to go, okay, I'm not well. I'm just going to stay in a room and try not to infect anyone with whatever I've got.
I worry that it turns me into a bit like a raving truther, because everyone I know is really like, well, the baby's had some symptoms, but we don't think it's that. Or like, oh, they've got a fever, but I don't think it's that. And I'm like, it is.
Of course it is. Yeah. We'll all be redeemed afterwards. The minute they have those like test at home kits.
Oh, yes.
I told you. Sorry, woke the dog up. Sorry.
Well, that is your. Well, by the way, what were you doing in Finland? Were you just gigging, or were you filming something?
I was making a documentary that we didn't get to finish because of So we got calls. They basically closed the airports, so we had to just leave it. We were right at the top of Finland, about to meet the Sami people to go for 3 days trekking because they heard reindeer, and then they were like, okay, you might not be able to get out of the country unless you go now. So it was this really. Yeah.
Was part of you tempted just to be like, I'll tough it out with the Sami people?
Absolutely not. I was about to start my period, and I was like, 3 days trekking, like potentially like really without toilet access. I was slightly relieved at the beginning, like an idiot, like, oh, I'll get to go home and lie down. I didn't know I'd never be leaving my house ever again.
See, my friend has just come back from a month on a boat in Antarctica, where he was doing reportage about what's going on in Antarctica, and he came back to this, and was just like, but I've just had a month in isolation.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm glad you got back. That sounds really
okay, I must say, before I came back, guess who I met? Father Christmas. The actual one in Lapland. And it was like meeting Gandhi or something. He was so... he just vibrated on a different level. And he was just... I honestly was trying so hard not to cry. I'm nearly 40, but it felt so real when he was like... He told me he'd put my dog on the good list and that dogs can be on the list for presents too.
Oh,
I know.
I found Finland really. I went out there and gigged a while ago, and the first conversation that I had with the promoter was a really lovely guy. He basically we were in a pub at about 1 a.m, and he was explaining how when the Nazis came to Finland, they managed to beat them all with no weapons, really, just by hanging up trees and punching tanks until they would, it's that kind of conversation, which underneath it had this suggestion of, so all we're saying is, I hope you're in good form tomorrow for your gig, because this is how we treat those that we are displeased.
Well, that's the thing about the Nazis, which I didn't realise. So the Nazis occupied the north of Finland, and when they left, they had an air base, which then became what happened. Nancy Reagan went there for a holiday. They built her a log cabin, and because they had native reindeer, they then decided, let's make it a tourist attraction and say Father Christmas lives here. But actually, it all comes out of it being a Nazi base.
Wow, I feel so complicated.
It was a rebranding. It was literally like, let's try and distract from this.
It's like Fanta.
Yeah, exactly. Fanta and the designer, is it Tommy Hilfiger who made the uniforms? Yeah.
Have you got a show and tell, by the way, Sarah?
I got too excited, so I bought loads. That I think you'll like. This is a potato that my friend Aisling made, so I wouldn't miss her. That's Aisling on a potato. And then I got this. This is a necklace, but look, it's the shape of oxytocin.
Oh,
the chemical compound. That's good. I thought you'd like that. And then this is Take That badge from the 90s. That's a dummy. Then I got, this is my Pointless trophy. Yeah, this is Alan Measles, who's Grayson Perry's teddy bear. He's my lucky man. And also, I've got this. This is a bust of Stalin from the Stalin Museum in Gorey.
Well, Josie, on this episode of the Generation Game, let's see how many of those you can remember, and you get to keep them.
Leon Trotsky.
There was the oxytocin, the bust of Stalin. There was the Take That badge.
Oh my God, Robin's won all my stuff.
I don't need my own celebrity Pointless prize. That was so funny when I did that, and it's the only thing I've ever really won. And I did the celebrity Pointless with or Pointless Celebrities, what it was called, on the day that I was doing your gig in Camden as well, Josie, that night. And do you remember I came and I kept my badge on for the gig, and you kept saying, how did it go? And I said, no, I promise I will not say. And I kept it secret for 18 months because it was ages before it came out. And then I was out in Canada and my son was watching it. He must have been about 9 or 10 at the time with my dad. And he was supposedly really nervous. And he said, I know Dad hasn't won because I'd have found the trophy by now. And so each round he'd see. So when it actually happened, it was...
Can I compare and contrast?
The trophy in your house.
I didn't even hide it. I did that plain sight thing, which is the box was kind of on a shelf, which as long as... But I think I took it far too seriously, not telling anyone what the results were.
Can I say, compare that to me when I won 15-1 and I literally went on stage the same night and told the entire audience the entire story of it. And I got away with it as well.
But you've just told it on mass media, mass media.
I could be lying.
No, you weren't. It was
true.
Amazing.
I've got loads of questions.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
Oh,
by the way, can I just ask, this is for Natalie, just a quick one. James Thomas says, at a meeting at the BHA in 2012, Natalie borrowed my favourite pen. May I have it back, please? Specific.
I'm so sorry. I'm a terrible pen thief. And for a while, about a year ago, and then I think I lost it somewhere else, I managed to steal one from someone. And I always tell people at book signings that I'll steal them and I won't mean to. And I stole one that literally says Crime Stoppers down the side. I'm so pleased with myself. I'm really sorry. I'll buy you a new pen. I'm so sorry.
That's just a
Robin will send you a pen of your choosing.
I have, and this is just a very small hamper. I literally have 7 bags because when I go on tour, especially with Brian, all the pens every day, so they're replaced. The Blakely in New York, they had a brilliant pen, had a little torch at the end as well, but they've stopped making them because people like me
They stole them, did they, Robin?
Yeah. Well, didn't steal them. They were a complimentary pen.
And
Don't take the little shampoos.
I should like to know that the pen was offered. We've got some good questions for Sarah. Should I'll ask one, shall I?
Yes.
I'm too excited. Okay. There are 2 which are my favourites. So the first one is slightly sillier, and it's from somebody called Kathy Gardner. And she says, my 10-year-old son would like to know, what do you find most frustrating and why?
Oh, frustrating. Oh, God. Oh, it's so hard when you get asked a question all of a sudden. I know, but what if I accidentally something slips out and it makes me look like a really horrible person? I was thinking about when sometimes people swim really slowly in the swimming lanes, and I know that lots of comedians have done stand-up about that. Felicity Ward has an amazing routine about it, and so does Richard Herring. But there is something that's awful because you know that people are there to exercise and enjoy themselves, and you shouldn't have road rage. But I do find that quite frustrating.
Choose the appropriate lane. Appropriate lane. Be honest about your speed.
No, but the trouble is there aren't enough lanes. Like fast, slow, medium. That's 3 distinctions. There should be 100 lanes. So you can go like quite fast. What's that?
There should be one that starts fast, slows down.
Yeah. Fast in crawl, but the minute I'm doing that, I'm slowing. Everyone's backed up behind me. And then I feel pressure to change my stroke. And then that's frustrating.
So what do you want to do? Do you want to have a crawl lane and a breaststroke lane? You can't be changing lanes every 5 minutes.
No, of course you can't. And no one should do butterfly because it makes the waves go up and down too much.
I have a real theory that anyone doing butterfly in a public pool is basically wanting to tell everyone around them that they're a bad person. There's something about them where they're like, I need everyone to know that I'm a terrible person. Here it is.
When would butterfly ever be needed?
Useful, I know.
Imagine you off a ship and you had to get a mile to land.
It would be if someone had tied your legs together. That would be the only reason. But then still, you could do that. Also, it seems cruel to have named a swimming stroke after an animal that would die if it got wet. Like, call it the dolphin or something.
Don't call so beautifully.
Yeah.
Being on the sea.
I wonder how. Oh.
No, go on.
I was just wondering why a 10-year-old would be so interested in a 38-year-old woman's frustration. What does he think he knows about me?
Question for Natalie. This is from Lou Mansroli. She wants to know, have you ever been on an archaeological dig, which is her particular passion?
Oh no, I would love to. I would really, really love to go. I got to gig at Vindolanda, I think not last summer, but the summer before. But it was a fairly fleeting visit. So I hope I'll get to. Yeah, I hope that would be lovely. Yeah, I would love to. Somebody ask me. That would be great. Yes, please.
And the other
makes so much sense.
Tim Footman knows the graffiti scene in Life of Brian.
Yes.
Which is the Romans Go Home, I think, as far as I remember, which is then repeatedly corrected by the Centurion. Is the final version correct? Do you know that?
The final version is Romani ite domum. Is that right? Is that the last version? Anyone? I think it is. Yeah, I think it is, because ite is definitely the imperative, so that's right. Domum is the accusative of motion towards, so that's right. And I'm pretty sure they used the yes, I think it's right. Yeah, I think it's right. I think maybe in the movie he says it's. Does he say it's he says domum is the locative and it's not. But it's still right, if you see what I mean. So it would be domi, I think, if it were the locative. So yes, I think it's right. I mean, they've got like 85 degrees between them, the Pythons, so I like their chances. Hey.
The Sarah, another Susie Gage, who's also a brilliant book.
Her book's about to come out, and she's one of the people who's lost their book launch. So actually, people should follow Susie and see what her book is about, because it looks amazing.
It is. It's Say Why to Drugs. We've done a book Shambles, which I think will be out very, very, very soon. But yeah, Susie Gage's book, Say Why to Drugs. You can kind of download it now and get it on all those ways where we are at Get Books now. She just wants to know. She says, "Please, may we all virtually meet Mouse the dog,
Would you like to meet him?"
Says he looks like a very good boy indeed.
He is a very good boy indeed. So he's under the desk. So I'm going to move the computer rather than wake him up. There we go, because this is where he likes to sleep. Mouse, I'm going to just, I don't know if you can see him yet. Do you want to wake up and say hello to everyone? He's just had his walk, you see, so he's having a lovely sleep. I can't see how well a view you're giving of him.
No, you're giving a nice view. And he does look like a very good boy indeed.
Oh, he's the best boy. Right. He's the best boy. And it's so nice being at home with him all the time. That's the real plus of everything that's going on.
Yeah.
I love that companionship.
Happy boy. There we go.
I've got a question for you, which is from Anastasia Halton. Yeah. And she wants to know, what will your next book be about? She said that the second seemed like a logical continuation of the first. And where are you going to go next?
Well, actually, I think I might write a novel first, because the third book I want to write, again, I need to do lots and lots of research for. So I thought I might write a fiction book now. But it's very scary suddenly having all this time. Yeah. like yesterday I wrote a sentence and then was like, slam. I'm done. Yeah.
Procrastination is so easy, isn't it? It's like, I was thinking, right, so now I've got this lockdown situation. I have a deadline for a book. I can just concentrate on that. Or with Josie and Trent, I can come up with an idea where we have to make a show every day, and I can pretend that's my work for the day and still avoid the deadline.
Yes. Yeah, but also there was something that Dolly Alderton said, which I think is so true, about how people who are kind of treating this like a writing retreat don't seem to be taking it like very seriously. You know, like people who are like, "Oh wow, I'm getting so much done." It's like, this wasn't what this is. Yeah.
Also, I'm just like looking at people who are like, "Oh, I had such a long day yesterday," and I'm just like, please take my 2-year-old for the day, just one day, just take it for the day, just enjoy yourself. Like, yeah.
I can hear. I like it when I hear her in the background, "Mummy."
I know, I feel really bad, but she is with her dad. She's not. Yeah, just I didn't just leave her with a little bag of crisps.
What's another question for? Hang on, Ben. Hang on.
She's heard the word crisps.
We got another question for Natalie. This is from Bill Thompson. He wants you to tell the.
Yeah, that was quite something. Yeah, that really was something. So I had been doing the Iliad, which is, of course, a 24-book long epic poem, on tour. And I think you saw me do it also last summer. So I'd done it probably 45 times by the time we came to do the recording of Stand Up to the Classics. And that's really unusual, because normally I write the show. That's the only time I've ever managed to do it that way around. Normally I write the show to order, and then I purloin from it for the live shows. And so I knew I could do the Iliad 24 books in whatever it is, 27 minutes. But I didn't realize quite how tight the timing is. I wanted to record the program as live so that it could go out without edits. I wanted to have no guests. I wanted to do just one where it was just a perfect kind of performance piece, albeit that it would definitely be flawed, because I will make mistakes because I am a human being. And I didn't realize that the time zone that you have is 20. It has to be no shorter than 27 minutes 15 seconds and no longer than 27 minutes and 45 seconds. And so that's the only amount of time you have to play with, which is a lot to time it against. And so I recorded it in the Radio Theatre last year in October, and I had my iPad with a stopwatch on it, counting the time forward so I wouldn't overrun. And I knew I needed to build in the front really long so that I could cut later if I needed to, but I couldn't make it longer because that really would be a disaster. And I can show you this because I have my tour notebook, which I could also, but this is the full set of notes. Let me pick a day, and then you can see what it looks like. This is a reasonably tidy. This is the full set of notes I do the Iliad from, all 24 books. So it's not really very much. And yeah, I timed it right down, and it was the closest thing. Adam Rutherford was counting the books for me because he was there guesting as my scientist on the Aristotle program. So he counted book 1, book 2, book 3, book 4, and I could see he was getting slightly panicky when we got to about book 16, and we were at about, I don't know, 23, 24 minutes, and I knew I could get. I was like, I know that I bulked out the last bit over the previous few talks, so that I knew that it could expand if I had. And I was like, oh no, it's going to be fine. And I could feel the whole room was getting more and more tense. And I was shaking. And I wasn't even nervous. It was just the sheer physical tension of keeping it all together. And I was like, it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. And I got to the final line of the Iliad, which is Hos hoi gamphia pontafon Hectoros hipodamoio. And so the Trojans buried Hector, tamer of horses. And I hit that exact moment, the final S of horses, at exactly 27 minutes 45. And I stepped back from the microphone and collapsed to my knees because the sheer physical strain of it was so great. And the audience went wild, and it was amazing. And I slept about 4 days later because the adrenaline was so high. And I'd done the whole thing on Colin the Caterpillars and Diet Coke, because that to me is an acceptable diet, I'm afraid, when performing. And it was all brilliant. And then I had to go back on tour. And then I came back like 3 days later. And I finally got home on the Sunday morning, and I threw up every 2 hours for a day. I was like, oh yeah, no, that's a terrible idea. Let's never do that again. So it was one of the most, I thought if I could do it, it would be one of the most amazing experiences for me anyway. I hope the audience would love it. But for me, it was insane. And if they keep recommissioning us, I'll do the Odyssey, probably not this coming series because we'll do it without an audience, I suspect. But the series after, I'll write the Odyssey and do it the same way. I promise.
That's brilliant. That reminds me of
BBC Sounds.
It is. The whole of Natalie Haynes Sound of the Classics series 1 to 5 are available for free on BBC Sounds. So please help yourself. The Iliad was the final program of the final series, so program 20.
We're just getting to the end now, and Sarah, the final question for you, which is, have you found any ways? Joe Brand yesterday had various pieces of advice of trying to get through this, because of course people are experiencing so many different reactions to it, as Josie was kind of mentioning as well. And I wondered if you have anything that you think, well, this is one way of trying to find some way of meandering through this situation, which is both very odd and then sometimes strangely mundane and then really odd again.
Yeah, well, I actually have to say I'm one of the people who I don't really think I've found a way of coping yet, and I think that's okay. I think this is a really unnatural situation. I think sometimes looking at other people going, oh, everyone else is making the best of it, and I feel overwhelmed, is actually completely acceptable. I feel just like there's so much to absorb about what's happening. But I admire anyone who's like got a routine or anything like that. I do think there's one thing I was thinking about this kind of stuff, us doing stuff in our rooms now because we can't go out. And I was thinking, for anyone who's wanted to do something for a long time, whether that's stand-up or music or writing, maybe the one thing you can do is like make a little deal with yourself that when you're allowed out again, you do book a gig, use this time to like write your 5 minutes, because all any of us are doing now is doing it in our bedrooms. Like as Madonna said, it has been an equalizer in that way. And so maybe that would be the amazing thing if everyone, we all appreciate afterwards, we're so grateful about our lives, but also people use that to go, okay, how scary can it be? I was locked in my house for a month. Just go and do a gig or do something.
Also, the Madonna thing, I should say, if you are going to fill your bath with petals, make sure you have an effective plunger as well, because that will then become an issue.
Guys.
Robin, are you Madonna's plumber?
No, I'm just saying that the petals I used, because I thought, well, that looks fun. And I've just been plunging in petals. It's been a disaster.
Some religiously follow the Instagram stories of Stacey Solomon, and it shows, and it's very sad, because what she does is uses a little child's fishing net, and at the end of her bath she scoops up all the petals, which I presume Madonna also does.
Wow,
cool. So then make perfume.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Did you have any in terms of the way that you're currently getting through this? And obviously, as you said, in some ways the similarity is still you have the deadline looming, and you were still going to kind of have your own, self-imposed incarceration.
Yeah, and I already had crippling anxiety. So really, it's quite similar. All that's happened is that now everyone else has too. I would rather it had just been me, though, and the other really anxious people, and the rest of everyone didn't have to be anxious, I guess. But actually, I'm doing the sort of opposite, I think, from... Generally, people are kind of going, oh, if you're going to be at home all day, you really need a routine. And I'm always at home all day, and I'm always I'm incredibly routine focused. I do the exact same things at the same time every single day. And actually I'm doing the opposite, because not trying to keep my routine. I never think about keeping a routine, but doing the same things at the same time that I do the rest of the time is actually making me more anxious, because everything else is insane. So I'm sometimes, and I know this is, and you know how big a deal this is for me, I'm sometimes running on a Thursday instead of a Friday. So I know, but normally I run on the same days at the same time and that's how I live. And actually, because everything is difficult and strange, I'm having to change that, because it's making me feel worse, not better. So I think it's okay. I'm completely with Sarah. It's okay to not feel okay about this. It's not okay. So please don't feel like you should be coping, just because those of us who are always kind of stuck at home writing or whatever feel like we can keep doing this. Yeah, I can keep doing it, but it doesn't mean I'm functioning. I'm being propped up by dozens of loving friends who are checking in on me and making sure I'm okay and all of those things. And I think that connection is what's keeping me upright. So please give yourself permission to feel not okay, and please reach out to somebody if you need to, because I am rubbish at doing that, and other people are doing it at me so that I can't. My cousin texted me yesterday and she said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah, I'll text you if I'm not." And she said, "How about if you text me if you're fine, so I don't have to worry about you?" I was like, "Oh God, yeah, that's right. I've got people worried about me. Sorry, thank you, sorry." So yeah, stop being all brave. You don't have to. Reach out. Hi everyone. Thanks for tuning in and being here for us. It was lovely, and I really appreciated it.
Yeah.
There you are.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Natalie. Thank you, Sarah. Keep up to date with all their work, Josie.
This is such a small thing, but I've noticed that when I do go outside, I'm so aware of birdsong and bees and ants and butterflies and like the smallest natural things around me, and I find it's a real tonic.
As well.
Yes, exactly.
So beautiful. It's properly making my heart hurt, but in a good way.
What I would say is, if you're feeling sort of anxious or depressed or scared or any of the very normal reactions to this, when you go outside, just set yourself the goal that you're going to listen to birdsong and be aware of birdsong, and every day you'll hear more of it, and it's glorious. It's so exciting. So that's my tip.
Right, we're going to go. We're going to finish the show with Ben Norris. Who, Ben, again, can we just have the name of your album, because people can go and find out? There we are. That's Ben's album.
Moral Vacuum. Buy the CD on a website called Music Glue, or if you go to my Twitter, Benny_Norris, there's some links to download or just listen to it from there. I don't think I can live up to birdsong, by the way, but I'll...
and his Twitter handle is Benny Norris as well. So Sarah, Natalie, thanks very much. As we said, there's a tip jar at the bottom. We're going to try around to any of the people who are kind of performers, etc., have no work, and also to keep the venues going. So a lot of the people I know watching this go to the kind of venues where Josie and I and Natalie and Sarah and Ben may be playing, and they are going to struggle as well. So we want to make sure that the people who work there can also still have some kind of wage as well. So thank you very much for watching. We now hand you over to Ben Norris.
Thanks. This is the closest I've ever come to some sort of feminist anthem. It's track 2 on my album. It's called Jenny. Jenny won't be pushed around no more. Jenny's been secretly keeping score. She just got back from the hardware store, and Jenny has got a chainsaw. All those patronising things you said. Remember that time you patted Jenny on the head? You forgot, but Jenny remembered. That's why soon you're gonna be dismembered. Jenny's got a chainsaw. Got a chainsaw. No point saying sorry now, you should have before. You can bleed all you like, but Jenny will ignore. There really isn't any point in trying to close the door, cause Jenny has got a chainsaw. Ooh, sha-la-la-la-la. It's not part of feminist orthodoxy, but Jenny's been practicing on a tree. She got dismantle the patriarchy, but she can dismantle you. You'll see that inappropriate sex toy you bought her, even though you know you shouldn't have bought her. I think you forgot that she's someone's daughter, so you're gonna be about 3 foot shorter. Jenny's got a chainsaw. Got a chainsaw. No point saying sorry now, you should have before. You can bleed all you like, but Jenny will ignore. There really isn't any point in trying to close the door, cause Jenny has got a chainsaw. Ooh, sha-la-la-la-la. Ooh, sha-la-la-la-la. I don't think you're gonna play piano anymore. Your chances of survival look very poor. Pretty soon bits of you will be dropping to the floor, cause Jenny's got a chainsaw. Jenny's gonna make you pay for your sins. You haven't gotta hope it's not Jenny getting in. You can try and give her your forgive me grin, but soon you'll be a torso and a pile of limbs, cause Jenny's got a chainsaw. Got a chainsaw. No point saying sorry now, you should have before. You can bleed all you like, but Jenny will ignore. There really isn't any point in trying to close the door, cause Jenny has got a chainsaw.
Thank you very much, Ben Norris.
Thank you,
Thank you
Ben.
very much. Just a quick message to say at 6 p.m. tonight, I think I'm right, 6 p.m. tonight, we're going to be talking to Chris Hadfield. And if you have any questions for Chris Hadfield about being in space, about being human generally, he's an incredibly knowledgeable and lovely human being. He's everything you want a Canadian to be. I can say that.
This is what I was going to say. He doesn't let you down in what you'd hope he would be like at all.
Yeah, he's great. So if you have for Chris Hadfield, you can send them to me at Robin Ince on Twitter or via Facebook account as well. And I'll ask those at 6 o'clock. And if you've got any questions from your kids as well and all of those kind of things, it's really great if we can get those. And we're also going to be joined by JB Morrison, formerly Jim Bob of Carter the Unstoppable Sex Machine, who has a new book about David Bowie and alien abduction. He's going to be talking a bit about that. So might see you at 6 p.m. Otherwise, tomorrow morning, we're joined by Les Dennis and Steve Merchant. And do you know what? I can't remember our musical guest, but we'll put that up online as well. Thank you very much to Trent Burton. Thank you to everyone for watching.
Thank you to everyone for coming in.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.